to Backstage at the Grand Ole Opry, bringing together the songs, the stories, and laughter on both sides of the Opry curtain.
We've got stars by the score, scores by the stars, picking up the banjo, strumming up guitars. We'll talk a while and get you more acquainted with your stars. If you ever wanted in Backstage, here you are.
Our show features Roy Acuff, John Conley, Dottie West, Cousin Minnie Pearl, the Osborne Brothers, Jimmy C. Newman and Cajun Country, Connie Smith, Hank Snow, Boxcar Willie, B.J. Thomas, and yours truly, Grant Turner. And now, let's go backstage at the Grand Ole Opry with our host, Bill Anderson.
Thank you, Grant, and hello, everybody, and welcome to the Grand Ole Opry House in Nashville, Tennessee. Over 4,400 people are crammed into the Mother Church of Country Music again tonight for another great performance of America's longest-running country music show. I'm standing just off stage right, and for the next little while, it'll be my pleasure to kind of serve as your tour guide as we listen to the songs and visit with the stars backstage at the Grand Ole Opry. The house lights are dimming, the curtains going up, and who better to start the show than the king of country music himself, Roy Acuff and his Smoky Mountain Boys.
From the great Atlantic Ocean to the wide Pacific shore, from the queen of flowing mountains to the south belt by the shore, she's mighty tall and handsome, she's known quite well by all. She's the combination on the Wabash Cannonball. She came down to Birmingham one cold December day. As she rolled into the station, you could hear all the people say, "There's a girl from Tennessee, she's long and she's tall." She came down to Birmingham on the Wabash Cannonball. To my right is Oswald and his Showbro, made by Mr. Shot Dutch and the Showbud people. Our hee-haw boy, James Lawrence Riddle, is at the piano. Jimmy? States are dandies, so the people always say. From New York to St. Louis and Chicago, by the way. From the hills of Minnesota where the rippling waters fall, no changes can be taken on the Wabash Cannonball. Charlie Collins with that beautiful 45 instrument. Been woodshedding it. Tony Wheeler, the dealer with his harmonica. Here's to Daddy Claxton, may his name forever stand, and always be remembered round the courts of Alabama. His earthly race is over and the curtain round him fall. We'll carry him home to victory on the Wabash Cannonball. Howard Forster with his Stradivarius. To the jingle, the rumble and the roar, as she glides along the woodland, through the hills and by the shore. You're the mighty rush of the engineer, that lonesome hobo squall. You're traveling through the jungles on the Wabash Cannonball. All aboard for Opryland, USA. Backstage at the Opry. Have fun!
The old Cannonball. Roy Acuff, you know, I've been watching you for at least the 20 years that I've been on the Opry, balancing that fiddle bow and that fiddle. Do you balance it on your chin or on your nose?
I put the bow up on my nose, and then the fiddle and the bow I put on my chin. I'm afraid my nose wouldn't hold the weight of the bow and the fiddle both.
I don't think I have ever known why you do that.
I tell you, when I go on stage, I try to attract the attention of the audience. I've been doing that all of my life. I was trained that way. When you hit the center of that stage, get all the attention you can on you.
How about the yo-yo? Where did that come from?
That comes in commercial time. You know, we have 4,400 people sitting out there, and they come here to see the entertainers. So I figured that out, and then I just take my yo-yo and start yo-yoing and doing anything to give them some entertainment while the commercials are going on.
Roy, I want to continue this with you in a minute. John Conley's about to sing out on the Opry stage, and I think he's one of our bright new Opry stars, and maybe we ought to take a listen to him.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why I keep on believing you need me when you proved so many times that it ain't true. And I can't find one good reason for staying. Maybe my leaving would be the best for you. But these rose-colored glasses that I'm looking through show only the beauty, 'cause they hide all the truth. And they let me hold on to the good times, good lines, the ones I used to hear when I held you. And they keep me from feeling so cheated, defeated, when reflections in your eyes show me a fool. These rose-colored glasses that I'm looking through show only the beauty, 'cause they hide all the truth. So I'll just keep on hoping, believing that maybe by counting the many times I've tried, you'll believe me when I say I love you, and I'll lay these rose-colored glasses aside. These rose-colored glasses that I'm looking through show only the beauty, 'cause they hide all the truth.
Good job as always, Mr. Conley.
Well, thank you, Bill.
Hey, I got to ask you something. I saw a picture of you the other day in a magazine taken out at your farm, and you're sitting up on a tractor all sweaty and dirty. Now, come on, tell me that's just a publicity picture. You really hire somebody to do that, don't you?
No, I don't. As a matter of fact, when that picture was taken, that tractor was borrowed. I have since brought my own down from the Kentucky farm, and I get as dirty and sweaty and hot as often as possible by doing farm work. Work that if I had to do every day, like I used to growing up, it would be work. But when we come in off the road and that sort of thing and get out there and get with it for a couple, 3 days, it's fun, actually.
Is it true that you started out to be an undertaker?
Well, I've done several different things. Was raised on the farm. That was the first thing, and spent all my years through high school on the farm. Got interested in the funeral business toward the end of, my last year in high school, in fact, and started working part-time for a local funeral home, running ambulance service, too. Got interested enough to end up getting my licenses. I'm a licensed funeral director and embalmer in Kentucky. And I keep those licenses current just in case everybody don't want to buy the records no more, you know.
What about your radio license now, your disc jockey license? I know you used to be a disc jockey, but now you weren't a country music disc jockey, were you?
Never was a country music disc jockey and wasn't really a rock and roll disc jockey. I was in administration for the rock and roll station, but I didn't, you know.
Yeah, but now you could have been a country disc jockey. For example, Dottie West is about to come on the Opry stage and sing. Now you could introduce Dottie West, right?
I think I probably could. Here is a lady who will make you even more jealous of Kenny Rogers because she gets to work with him all the time. She's beautiful and she sings great. Dottie West.
Here comes more tears to cry. Here comes more heartaches by. Here comes my baby back again. Here comes more misery. Here comes old memories. Here comes my baby back again. My arms are open wide to let more hurt inside. Here comes my baby back again. He's sorry once again. Once more I'll understand. Here comes my baby back again. My arms are open wide to let more hurt inside. Here comes my baby back again. He's sorry once again. Once more I'll understand. Here comes my baby back again. Here comes my baby back again.
Roy, tell me everything you know about Minnie Pearl.
Well, that would take a book. She wrote a book on herself. and I haven't got time to tell you, but I'll tell you this. I have a lot of friendship for Minnie. I saw her when she first came here. She was talented, but she was a very nervous person, as all of us were when we was on stage. And she had a little hard time in her younger days of getting to the audience. She would run over her punchlines. But I'd talk to Minnie. I said, Minnie, slow down. Slow yourself down with your jokes. They want to hear you. And Minnie got to where she slowed down, and she's real slowed down.
You fired her one time, didn't you?
Oh, she tells that. No, Bill, I never fired anybody in my life. Minnie wanted to work with some others, and I don't blame her. And they could pay her more than I could, and I was glad she could get that kind of a deal.
Where did you come up with the way that you introduced Minnie Pearl on the stage? Because you have a very unique way of bringing her on.
You know, I don't know, Bill, to tell you the truth, just how that got started. But I always like to do something with a lot of emphasis on it.
Cousin Minnie Pearl.
Sounds terrible tonight. Well, I went to the doctor about my throat, and he gave me this medicine. And The medicine didn't hurt me so bad, Roy. It is the directions on the bottle. Said take it 2 nights to run in and skip a night. Well, them nights I had to take it to running is bad enough. And then them nights I had to take it to skipping, that is bad. And me with a bad throat, too. But it's a pleasure to be here, Roy.
I'm glad you came to visit us.
Yes, it's a pleasure. At my age, it's a pleasure to be anywhere. I know one time, me and Uncle Nabob, I believe you remember my uncle, don't you?
I've heard you speak of Nabob, I believe. Uncle Nabob.
He ain't a failure. He just started at the bottom, and he likes it there. But we went on a little trip. We went out west, me and Uncle Nabob and Dan Ambrosi. I never will forget it. It was a lovely trip, and we run up on a nice old Indian out there. And Uncle Nabob had lost Aunt Ambrosi, and he said, have you saw anything of a lady that I have lost? And the Indian said, ugh. And Uncle Nabob said, yeah, that's her. Where is she? I made that up.
I believe you did.
Made it up out of my own head. Had enough wood left over to make a picket fence. But anyway, we had a wonderful trip. Uncle Nabob goes on trips right off, and him and Aunt Ambrosi, they went on a trip with Steve Jones and his wife just last summer. And then the first night they got to a motel, and Uncle Nabob said to Steve Jones, said, let's do like the young folks do and swap partners.
Oh.
Well,
No.
that night about 12 o'clock, Uncle Nabob said to Steve Jones, how do you reckon the girls are doing? I scared Roy to death. I tell you, we've been having an exciting time at Grinder Switch. There's always something going on. Always something going on.
And always something coming off.
Well, Roy,
Well, yeah.
you talking about Miss Lizzie Tinkham that time she streaked through Grinder Switch in a birthday suit. She did, Miss Lizzie did.
Really?
Yes, indeed. And old Grandpappy Bustrom said, what in the world is that? And Steve Jones says, that's Miss Lizzie Tinkham. She's streaking in a birthday suit. And old Grandpappy said, well, it sure does need ironing. Oh, Roy, it's terrible to be this silly at my age. After all, not many people 18 would get up here and carry on like this. I had a song I was going to sing, Roy. Somebody asked me the other day if my voice was cultivated, and I told them what you said. What did you say?
I said it'd been plowed under.
And I love him still.
Several weeks ago, you were here and you were telling something about one of your people that you talk about quite a bit, maybe one of the ladies. She had selected her pallbearers for some reason.
Oh, that's Miss Lizzie.
Miss Lizzie.
She's one done the streaking. She's a real wild woman.
Yeah.
She said she didn't want nothing but women pallbearers. And I said, why is that? And she said, if them old men won't take me out while I'm alive, I don't want them to take me out after I'm dead.
Minnie Pearl, lovely lady. Thank you.
Minnie, you said in your book that Roy Acuff couldn't have done a better thing for you than to fire you, and he just got through telling me he didn't really fire you. Now I want to hear your side of that.
He did do me a favor. He was very nice about
Minnie,
it.
I don't remember that.
Well, you had a lot on your mind.
I tell you, really, I do remember talking to you and telling you to wait on your audience, which you do now.
Oh, I do. I keep waiting lots of times and still nothing happens.
You told me on our Backstage television show one time that sometimes you almost wish that you had never invented Minnie Pearl.
Well, not really anymore, but back when I first started, I didn't realize when I first started that there were so many complications and so many sacrifices. But there are sacrifices in any kind of career, aren't there, Roy?
Certainly is.
Oh, I wouldn't turn loose her for $100,000 million. I would have starved doing other things. The Lord intended for me to do Minnie Pearl. I'm convinced of that now.
You were close to the late Hank Williams, weren't you, Minnie?
I don't think I really understood Hank, but I think I loved him. I don't think I loved him. I know I loved him, and I think he thought a lot of, I hope he thought a lot of me and Henry. Henry flew him a lot, you know.
Tell me the story about the song he wrote in the back of the airplane, which you never heard again.
We were on the Hadacall tour, and Henry was flying Hank, and I was dead-hidden on the plane with him. And Henry and I was sitting in the front seat, and Hank was sitting in the back with his old long toothpick legs all folded up in the back seat of that little Beechcraft Bonanza. And we were flying along a pretty day like today, and Hank was sitting back there scribbling something on the back of an envelope, and he touched me on the shoulder, and he said, "Minnie, I want you to hear this." He said, "It's the song I just wrote." Well, he was big at that point. He had written all of his numbers, and he was very big. And, of course, we listened, and it was Heart of a Devil, Face of a Saint. And he sang it.
Heart of a Devil,
Face
Face of a Saint.
Now, whatever happened to that song?
That's what I'm telling you. Henry and I thought it was great, naturally. It was a typical Hank Williams number. Beautiful, great, heavy, tough, good. So he died shortly after that, and when he did, first time I saw Fred Rose afterwards, I said, "Did you all ever run up on a song called Heart of a Devil, Face of a Saint that Hank Williams wrote in the back of Henry's plane?" And he said, "Never did see it. It's gone. I don't know where it went." But isn't that terrible?
Goodness. Minnie Pearl still likes the fellers, don't she?
Oh, heavens, yeah. To be honest with you, I've always liked the fellers. I like a good, solid average. I like 5 men to 1 woman.
That's the average.
Speaking of boys, we got 5 hair-legged old boys about to come out here and pick a little bluegrass. I guess you know the
Now,
Osborne
that's my
brothers.
favorite sound, except for Mr. Acuff now. I love the way the Osborne brothers sing.
Plus, their big song, Rocky Top's now our state song.
Right,
Tennessee.
and I was proud to see that. I meant to congratulate whoever started that idea. I want to tell them that's a good idea.
Wish that I was on old Rocky Top down in the Tennessee hills. Ain't no smoggy smoke on Rocky Top, ain't no telephone bills. Once I had a girl on Rocky Top, half man, the other half cat. Wild as a mink, but sweet as soda pop, I still dream about that. Rocky Top, you'll always be home, sweet home to me. Good old Rocky Top, Tennessee. Rocky Top, Tennessee. Once 2 strangers climbed old Rocky Top, looking for a moonshine still. Strangers ain't come down from Rocky Top, reckon they never will. Corn won't grow at all on Rocky Top, dirt's too rocky by far. That's why all the folks on Rocky Top get their corn from a jar. Rocky Top, you'll always be home, sweet home to me. Good old Rocky Top, Tennessee. Rocky Top, Tennessee. I've had years of cramped up city life, trapped like a thug in a pen. All I know is it's a pity life can't be simple again. Rocky Top, you'll always be home, sweet home to me. Good old Rocky Top, Tennessee. Rocky Top, Tennessee. Rocky Top, Tennessee.
Stay with us. There's lots more to come backstage at the Grand Ole Opry. I'm Bill Anderson, and we're backstage at the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, Tennessee. And the show out on stage has got up a full head of steam. And I'm with Jimmy C. Newman, whose band Cajun Country is out there tearing the roof off of this place. Jimmy, what is it about Cajun music that excites the people and stops the show here every week?
Well, I suppose it has a lot to do with the type of instruments that are used, like the accordion and the Cajun fiddle, and of course the drums. And we sort of mix the Cajun and the Music City sound, to really make it lively.
What does Cajun actually mean?
Well, the word Cajun comes from the word Acadian. We're descendants of the Acadians of Nova Scotia that were exiled many years ago, and some of them settled all over the eastern U.S., but especially down in South Louisiana.
The Cajun people from Louisiana have got a very special dialect, a special way of talking. Can you give me a little of that?
Well, I don't know. I'll tell you why, though. As we stood here side by each, one in a bunch and two up by itself, I better get out there with the band and sing, don't you think?
Hey!
Pretty woman, Cajun honey, made me spend all my money dancing to the pretty music of the Louisiana Cajun band. All the way from New York City, clear on down to Morgan City, folks are dancing to the music of the Louisiana Cajun band. Louisiana Cajun band, all the way from Bossier City, clear on down to Morgan City, folks are dancing to the music of the Louisiana Cajun band.
Hey! Oh, I love that Cajun music from Jimmy C. Newman and Cajun Country. Back in 1963, I was up in Columbus, Ohio, judging a talent contest, and a little girl walked out on stage that afternoon in a homemade cowgirl dress, a pair of white cowgirl boots, and a guitar bigger than she was, but a voice bigger than anything I think I've ever heard. She won that talent contest hands down, and I thought so much of her, I brought her to Nashville, wrote her a few songs, and stood back and watched as she became a country music superstar. She's about to go out on the Opry stage right now. Let's listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, she's cute and she's country. Miss Connie Smith.
They're not teardrops, just sincere drops. They're I love you drops, and I love you. They were on my pillow when I woke up this morning. They were on the letter I tried all day to write. And just a little while ago I saw them falling on your picture as I kissed it goodnight. I love you, drops. I
just for you. I never lived so many lifetimes in a week. Why don't you come back to me the way you said you would, and kiss these little crystals off my cheek? I love you, drops. I miss you, drops. Hurry home, drops. You've been gone so long, drops. They're not teardrops, just sincere drops. They're I love you drops, 'cause I love you. I love you. Thank you very much.
You didn't have to sing one of my songs to impress me. I'm already impressed.
Well, I think I sang your song because you impressed me with your songwriting. That's one I've always loved.
Before you came out on stage and sang, I was telling the people the story of how we met back in 1963 in the talent contest in Columbus, Ohio. And I just wondered, if you had known then everything you know now, would you still have entered that talent contest?
Do you really want to ask me that? I reckon I would. Yes, I loved music, you know, and I loved to be around the people that were in music, and I still love to be around the people who are in music. They're just great people, and I still love music. So, what can I say?
I want to ask you something that I've wondered about for a long time. Your first record, Once a Day, went to #1. You'd never made a record before, and all of a sudden you're starting at the very top with a #1 record. Do you think that kind of instant success is good?
No. I'm glad I survived it, but I had no idea what was happening. Actually, it's only been in the last few years that I feel like I know what I'm doing a little bit. I remember one time that because of some circumstances, I had to go on after George Jones. And here, you know, George Jones, the George Jones, and I had to follow him. I remember crying because I said, how can I follow George Jones? And it just about killed me. And I had to do that with Marty Robbins one time, and it just was devastating to me because I had no confidence to be able. I wasn't then. Now I know I'm just me, and they either take you or they leave you. And if you do your best, then they'll accept you, you know.
Hank Snow, would you have wanted your first record to be a hit, or are you glad that you made records for a while before you had a big hit?
Yeah, I am really. I'm very glad because it took me several years to actually get a foothold, Bill. And I think you leave your brand for always when you do it gradually. Right.
Hank, I know you got to go out on stage and sing in just a minute, but before you go, let's talk a little bit about the foundation and the child abuse program that you're involved in.
It is very nice of you to bring that up, Bill, because it's a very, very important part of my life now. There is a child abused every minute around the clock, 24 hours a day, either abused or neglected, in this country alone. So I started to organize about 5 years ago, and I've done extremely well. I have a cross-section of some of the finest people in Nashville who are highly dedicated. We have a great board of directors, and things are going fine.
If a fan who's listening to us right now wanted to help, they could just write Hank Snow, Grand Ole Opry, Nashville, Tennessee.
That would be fine, sure.
And you could get in touch
Yes,
with them.
sir.
Well, that's great. As they say in showbiz, break a leg. I know you got to go on. Thank you for being by with us, and thank you, Connie Smith.
Oh, I'm glad to.
The Singing Ranger, Hank Snow.
I watched as he held her and kissed her goodnight. Heard every word as I stood out of sight. Just like a fool, everything he believed. Nothing but sweet lies she once told to me. Fool-hearted boy, should I tell what I know? Just how she'd win love and then let it go. Too much in love and too far gone to see. It's only sweet lies she once told to me. Once he starts falling, he won't want to stop. She'll build him up high and then let him drop down with the others who never could see. It's only sweet lies she once told me. She'll
He'll whisper sweet words and make his head spin. He'll never know all the trouble that he's in till it's all over, and he'll surely see it's only sweet lies she once told me. Oh, what I'd give just to hear her once more whisper the same thing she whispered before. I'm still in love and a blind man could see I love those sweet lies she once told me. He thinks he'll win her 'cause she says she cares. That's just her game and she won't play it fair. She'll leave him sad, full of deep misery, with all those sweet lies she once told me. She couldn't be true, it's sad but it's so. How can she love with a heart that's cold as stone? He's doomed to heartaches but too blind to see nothing but sweet lies she once told me. She'll whisper sweet words that make his head spin. He'll never know all the trouble that he's in till it's all over, and he'll surely see it's only sweet lies she once told to me.
Boxcar Willie's come over to join me and Grant Turner backstage here at our Grand Ole Opry. Box, how in the world do you explain in these days of modern country music the success of somebody who dresses like a hobo and sings plain old three-chord country songs?
Well, you know, it's just like vanilla ice cream. You can't really improve on just good old homemade vanilla ice cream. You can add peach to it or chocolate to it, you know. When it comes right down to it, just the old homemade ice cream.
Grant, why do you think Boxcar has this unusual appeal these days? Because he totally goes against all the rules that people are setting up, doesn't he?
Well, in the first place, he's unique, and he hasn't had to rely on fancy costumes in order to get by.
Well, that's true.
We know that.
Well, I never did figure I was going against the rules because I didn't know any better. I don't know anything else but what I'm doing, and I don't plead ignorance on this. I'm very proud of the fact that I never listened to any other kind of music except country music. There is great artists in the other fields, and that's fine. But personally, I never listen to any other kind of music. If it's there, I tune it out. But if it sounds country, I'll tune it in.
And just keep on making that vanilla ice cream.
Right.
The Lord made a hobo out of me. He took my soul and then he set it free. I travel round and round and I sing in every town. Yes, the Lord made a hobo out of me. Well, the Lord give me a big black train, my home in the sunshine and rain. I live a life of ease and I do what I please. Yes, the Lord made a hobo out of me. I thought I'd settle down and go to work, but digging ditches makes my back hurt. So I threw that shovel down and I caught the southern bound. Yes, the Lord made a hobo out of me. The Lord made a hobo out of me. He took my soul and then he set it free. I travel round and round and I sing in every town. Yes, the Lord made a hobo out of me. I thought that I would try married life, so I settled down with a nagging wife. But I couldn't take the strain, so I caught the next train. Yes, the Lord made a hobo out of me. The Lord made a hobo out of me. He took my soul and then he set it free. I travel round and round and I sing in every town. Yes, the Lord made a hobo out of me. took my soul and then he set it free. I travel round and round and I sing in every town. Yes, the Lord made a hobo out of me. Yes, the Lord made a hobo out of me.
I'm in the wings with B.J. Thomas, who's about to go out on the Grand Ole Opry stage. And as you all know, B.J.'s a man of deep religious convictions. He does a lot of gospel music, but I understand you're not going to do a religious song tonight.
Well, no, I'm not. I'm doing a country thing tonight. You know, I feel like as a Christian, it's just as important for me to be an entertainer who's a Christian as opposed to maybe just being a Christian entertainer. So I enjoy singing gospel and Christian, but I also enjoy my country and my pop, too.
When I was on tour up in Michigan back during last winter, I stumbled in a little bookstore one day and I bought a copy of Home Where I Belong. Mm-hmm. And I didn't get back off the tour before I finished it. I read it cover to cover, and I've never written a book, so I wonder. I feel like I know you better than I did before I read the book. But I wonder how you feel. Do you feel like you're kind of walking naked through the world now? I mean, do you feel like everybody knows more about you than they ought to know?
Well, I think there is a certain price to pay in that area. Yeah, I think if you make yourself vulnerable and you open up maybe some of your private things, you do feel like maybe people know a little bit more about you than maybe you know about them. But we felt like, and I say we, my wife Gloria and I felt like that we needed to write the book because of the fact that we had come through the drug era along with the rock and roll music that we were making, and we made it through, and we ended up with peace of mind and security and hope, and we just felt like we ought to tell somebody about it.
Opry newcomer B.J. Thomas.
Let them just say Texas to me, and I'll talk on and on. But let them ask about you, and I'll talk twice as long. I'll talk about those blue Texas skies, but not the way I'll talk about your blue eyes. You're the only reason I'd ever leave Texas, and for a cowboy born and raised here, that's saying a lot. You're the only reason I'd ever leave Texas, 'cause you mean more to me than all that Texas has got. Let them just say Texas ain't big and they're in for a fight. Let them just talk bad about you and they're risking their life. Oh, to me no other place means so much, but even Texas can't compare with your touch. You're the only reason I'd ever leave Texas, and for a cowboy born and raised here, that's saying a lot. You're the only reason I'd ever leave Texas, 'cause you mean more to me than all that Texas has got. You're the only reason I'd ever leave Texas. You're the only reason I'd ever leave Texas. Oh, you're the only reason I'd ever leave Texas. You're the only reason I'd ever leave Texas. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, B.J. Always a great job. Well, I guess everybody at the Opry's been out on stage to sing tonight except me, and I think it's my turn. Let me tell you a little bit about where I come from. I was born into a Christian country home, and the first songs that I sang were the songs of praise and glory on Sunday morning when the church bells rang. I sang them first in Sunday school. Later on I sang up in the choir, until one Sunday morning, almost without warning, I realized that wasn't my desire. And that's when I went from singing Rock of Ages to singing rock and roll. And my mama fell down on her knees, prayed to God have mercy on his soul. And the elders and the deacons tried to get the black sheep back into the fold. On the day I went from singing Rock of Ages to singing rock and roll, I formed a little band. We began to travel all around the world. Our nights were filled with music, screams and propositions from the girls. I started rolling cigarettes, drinking beer and loving warm red wine. My mama wrote me letters, I tied them all together, and I said I'll read them soon as I get the time. We were picking in Chicago the night the telegram came to the gig. It was from my little sister, and she said, Bubba, Bubba, come home quick. Mama's got a fever, and Daddy says she surely must be dying. And Mama's one request, the only thing she's asked, is to hear you sing the gospel one more time. And that's when I went from singing rock and roll back to singing Rock of Ages. The little country church seemed a million miles from the concert stages. As the good Lord wrote my mama's name in the book of everlasting pages, I finally went from singing rock and roll back to singing Rock of Ages. Let me hide myself in thee. I finally went from singing rock and roll back to singing Rock of Ages. And the little country church seemed a million miles from the concert stages. As the good Lord wrote my mama's name in the book of everlasting pages, I finally went from singing rock and roll back to singing Rock of Ages. Let me hide myself in thee.
Thank you. Oh, you're beautiful. Thank you very much.
Well, that about wraps it up for this time. But before we go, I want to thank all of the gang that pitched in and helped to make this edition of Backstage at the Grand Ole Opry something mighty special. I sure hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you'll join us again next time you hear that we're coming your way. For Bud Wendell, president of WSM Incorporated, Hal Durham, manager of the Grand Ole Opry, for all the pickers under the direction of Mike Johnson, our background vocalists, the fantastic Carol Lee Singers, our hard-working engineers, Bill Van DeVort and Doug Kreider, our crew, Jess McKinney, Conrad Jones, and Forrest Green, and especially for the 60 artists who are members of our Grand Ole Opry family, I'm Bill Anderson. Thank you. We'll see you next time when we go backstage at the Grand Ole Opry. So long, everybody.